So, the amazing digital circus just ended, and I have to do something creative with all the feelings I have for this franchise. So, here goes my review of the episode because I just need to talk about this. And don't worry, the first section is without any spoilers, and we'll get to that later. Also, please don't take me too seriously. Those are just my loose thoughts about the finale, and it's basically me being a fan. I don't know. I just feel like I have to get it out somewhere and do something with it. So don't take my words too seriously. And yeah, I am open to debate in the comments about anything that happened. Just keep it spoiler free for those who haven't seen it yet, and don't spoil and ruin the fun for the other people. I am not fully satisfied with what we got. Don't get me wrong, I still love the show and the finale was good. It just wasn't perfect. Or it just wasn't what I assumed it would be. I saw some spoilers, but not enough to actually be spoiled too much, though most of my theories I agreed with turned out to be indeed true. I just thought that it's all gonna turn out way differently when it comes to order of the events, because pacing was really weird here. This is a very specific show, and by watching the final act, I can assure you that this piece of media was made with human heart and passion. After watching episode 9 in theaters, it feels even more special for Gooseworks herself, and it makes sense since that's her show. Can we all just shut the fuck up? I don't know if you understand what I mean, but my surprise towards the ending wasn't because it was bad or so unpredictable. It was surprising because it felt like someone's literally confessing their feelings to me. The Amazing Digital Circus has always been an incredibly relatable show, and finally, truly was like that as well. Even more, I would say, because in some scenes it felt like we were just the readers of a very specific and very personal letter that Gooseworks is writing, and the desk is on fire. Although I have one tiny problem with it, which is pacing of the episode and the whole series itself. Because TADC actually started building up the main plot with CNA and Kane pretty much late in the story. And yes, there were some hints since the pilot about what's gonna happen, but even with character developments, I just think that if creators gave them a little bit more time in the previous episodes to set up what actually is going to happen, the outcome would be much more satisfying, at least for me, because it wouldn't bomb us with all of the information about characters in the last second. If we got some things from episode 7 and 8 back in episode 3 or 4, it would just feel much more earned. Like, I don't know if you know what I mean, but for example, Jax's backstory could be hinted way before, back in episode 5, for example, which, yeah, it kinda was. And if you watch a bar scene in episode 5 after episode 9, it makes much more sense, and the same goes for the whole episode 6, basically. But at least for me, based on what we got till 9, we wouldn't guess that this is what it was all about. Like, do you understand what I'm trying to say? And yes, some can say that it can also be a positive thing. Sure, I can see that. But again, this
This
is
is
my
my
video.
video.
I also saw some people saying that 9 episodes wasn't enough and we should get at least 13 of those, but I think it's not a problem of the amount of episodes, but just the way the story is pacing. Because it's not impossible to fit this complex and beautiful story in 9 episodes. I guess it's just a matter of when creators decided to place some insignificant lore drops. And it's not a problem of the last act itself. I guess it's just something that the whole TADC kind of has. I don't know. And maybe because of that, I have to say that the ending indeed felt rushed. Not only when it comes to just pure lore, but characters as well. The whole episode, especially the beginning, goes really fast, yet we still stop to see characters talk to each other while explaining some of the other characters' lore, and basically just to process their feelings. And all of that combined just kind of felt weird. Some of the things escalated so quickly, and while we were jumping from one event to the other, characters' reactions didn't quite match what I assumed they would do in that situation. But on the other hand, I watched episode only once so far, so maybe it's just me, and I'll talk about it later in a spoiler section. The thing that surprised me was how calm and, in its own twisted way, peaceful the whole finale was. which is not necessarily a bad thing. And this is something that TADC does really well. The show knows where it stands. And in reality, it was never supposed to be this big and loud or fast moving story. The finale wasn't like that either. It was calm and quiet, and it continued its vibe and atmosphere that it carried since the pilot. It was a devastating yet weirdly peaceful goodbye. And it was beautiful. A little cliche, but beautiful to see mostly everyone bonding and becoming sort of a family or community despite a hopeless situation that they're in, and it nicely reflects the I have no mouth and I must scream story. Honestly, I just love how Gooseworks takes lessons and themes from that novel and rewrites it into something completely opposite, and yet so similar. When in I Have No Mouth, the characters find themselves completely hopeless, where death is the only way out of their misery, TADC shows how characters learn to live with the current situation and how they adapt to it. I Have No Mouth is more of a physical suffering in a dirty world, while TADC is more of a mental suffering in the colorful one, where in one characters grow into accepting what's surrounding them and the others just pray for it to be over. The ending was fine. It's actually really hard to write a fulfilling ending to the story that has accidentally and uncontrollably grown into something so huge over the years. So I can definitely see the pressure. It's still not what I expected, and it took me some time to understand why it was so unsettlingly calm and soft and gentle at the same time. I guess the internet just scared the shit out of me. It was indeed sweet, a bittersweet, with a little bit of sorrow in it, but I still loved it. Even if I don't agree with some of the decisions that were made, I still loved it. But like, don't let me fool you on this one. It's still pretty tragic, even shocking to some degree, and the longer you think about it, the more devastating it gets. And yes, indeed, the real joke is your tragedy. One microwaved peep, basically. Now, welcome to the spoiler section. I am disappointed with some things, and one of them is how they treated abstraction. Since abstraction is such an important concept in the show, and since Jax is such an important character in the story, it just feels disappointing to me that they didn't show his death. It just happened off screen. And maybe I'm being basic or too needy, or I am just traumatized by Stranger Things. But goddamn, if I had to see him die, I want him to do it on screen. I mean, sure, we can assume what happened. We pretty much know what happened based on the information that we get from episode 7 about how abstraction works from abstracting person perspective. And yeah, obviously the rule that show doesn't tell, and I don't think like it was necessarily needed for him to die on the screen, but it's just my personal issue with it. Because at first we take off from where we finish episode 8. We have a small fight between characters started by obviously Jax, and we see how everyone is devastated and hopeless. We have a sincere and beautiful scene with Pomni and Ragata. This hug was so long, me and my friend started laughing off how corny it was. To then switch to Jax and stay with Jax till the rest of the movie. Subul, Gangle, even Kinger don't have much screen time for themselves. It's only when Pomni needs them to handle the Jax situation, which sucks, because even if they're not the main characters and our Yuri turned out to be officially canon, I think that since it's the last act, the finale of the series, they should have their time as well. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind seeing Jax on a big screen. I enjoy it. It's just the fact that it's his 57th episode. The next thing that I found really weird was the way characters reacted, especially Pomni. Because even in the moment where Jax comes to Pomni and clearly wants to say something, but the last second he kind of gets scared and walks away, why didn't Pomni go after him when she clearly saw that something was off? Why did no one did anything? There was Jax's mental state getting fucking worse during the time where Kane was gone, and the same goes for Ribbit back when she was alive. I mean, one of the messages of the show is to find strength in each other, to be there for one another, because in this scenario, we is all we've got. Even if you're a dickhead. Even if we are the dickheads. The answer is pretty simple.
Losers.
You threw me out of a moving truck.
Jax is an asshole. No wonder some would rather avoid him if possible, and Pomni needs to learn how to let people go. Jack's being too scared to open up, believing that he doesn't deserve any love, and desperately pushes everyone away even though deep down he's craving some human contact. And Pomni, who is too stubborn to let Jax go, even though she realizes that he won't accept any help ever in the world. We know that. But when did Pomni learn that lesson to let go? When did Pomni realize that you cannot force anyone to open up or to reach out for help? You cannot change people into getting better unless the change and will to change come from themselves. When did that happen? I believe that she did eventually learn that lesson, and I don't have problem with Jax dying or abstracting. That makes sense. The only thing that I don't understand is I don't see the moment where Pomni actually decided to let this one go. When did that happen? After Jax pressed the button? Maybe? Or I'm just dumb? I don't know. That's also a possibility. And yes, I understand. We are all we've got works in both ways. You have to accept the love and people around you to actually learn how to coexist in this wacky world together. Sure, I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it, but part of me is still grieving, I guess. And there is no other way of how this would go aside from maybe Jax confronting his feelings, but guilt and fear would consume him anyway, and then he would abstract. But it makes sense for Jax's character to not tell and keep all of his suffering for himself, but God, I just wished a happy end for him. God! We got to see Kaufmo and Ribbit, and when it comes to Ribbit, I wish we saw her more on the screen. Again, I feel like this character or this subplot was revealed in the story a little bit earlier. The impact and the mystery would have much more interesting outcome, but yet again, it's just my opinion. Kaufmo sounds amazing, and Jax, you have a timeout. You cannot treat people like that. The way blood boiled in my veins when I saw how he treated Ribbit after that confession. I genuinely loved all of the scenes with those three tricks. I loved them, and I thought we were gonna have some more casual spend time with our Ribbit Rabbit at first, but we went down right into the action, which is also cool. I especially love all of the scenes in Ribbit's room, not only because they are relatable as hell, and not only because we actually get to see Ribbit opening up and getting to know her more, and I don't know why, but even if they have like 5 minutes on the screen total, they're still one of my favorite characters in the show. We also get to see Jax being normal, which feels unnatural. And I love it. I love seeing Jax vulnerable and allowing himself to chill out a little bit. And maybe that's because he's not staring at me like he wants to eat my kidney. I love the confession scene, or however you're gonna call it, because it feels human. I can't fully describe it or explain it, but just being in theater and watching that specific scene, I felt like, yeah, I've been there. We get to see Jax cry, and we see how, even when he's terrified of what he's about to say, he still finds enough comfort in Ribbit to open up a bit. And the same goes for Ribbit. It just feels so real, and I am so impressed by Gooseberg's work that she's able to put so much humanity in, small moments like this. And yeah, TADC is full of moments like this. That's why it makes it so special in a way. And maybe my real attachment towards this one scene comes from the fact that it's Jax who's in the center of all of this, or I don't know, but I just love it. There's this one moment in Ribbit's room where at first we see the memory from Jax's perspective to then slowly switch the camera angle into revealing his face. And I don't know what I was gonna say, I just really like that shot. I love it. I mean, aren't they just fucking lovely? Oh my god. And all of the scenes with Jax and Pomni in this episode, how Jax faces the consequences of his actions, and at least in the end he's able to openly admit in what deep void of despair and pain he's in, and how shitty he actually feels is just too much for one day for me. And thing that makes it even more tragic is one line from Pomni when she says, "You should have just talked to me, man." Yes, that's exactly it. Yes, Jax has issues, whether it's repressing his feelings towards other people, himself, or his identity. He also just doesn't know how to fucking communicate. This line is literally everything Jax had to do. Be brave enough to talk about what's bothering him inside and trust people who he considers his loved ones, because that's what friends do. The idea of that terrifies him though, so he didn't. And the last scene that we see Jax in, when he's standing next to that fucking lamp and honestly confesses to Pomni how much he hates himself for what he did and continued to do because he didn't have enough strength and was too afraid to stop. This scene broke something inside of me. Cinema is not supposed to be this real. And Pomni just listens. And for once, Jax lets go of his anxiety and facade. He drops all of it and allows her to just stay with him where he's most visible and vulnerable, as he knows that now it's over. He says how he's not ready to go, and Pomni's line when she goes, "Stay with me, I am not built for this guy." And that's what I mean when I say that the ending was calm and quiet. I am not talking about traumatized viewers in the theater, because it was just a silent cry and feelings falling down the characters. I knew mostly Jax and Ragata, and then later Pomni, because Gangle and the rest kinda weren't invited. But this specific scene is a absolute cinema. I should make a video with full breakdown of each shot, or just the shots I like, explaining how it adds to the story and characters, but for now I'm too lazy for that. Just I have to remember that I wanted to do it. It was calm and quiet and yet so emotional. Okay, another issue I have with this ending is Kane and his sudden return, which was unexpected. And honestly, I don't know how it works. Really, Kane is able to return from being deleted, but Bubble is nowhere to be found, aside from this one bubble next to Kane in the void, but that's it. We don't even know if that's our Bubble, and even if Bubble was attached to Abel, shouldn't we see him with Abel after Kane decided to release his brother and leave him unauthorized with some anger issues in the void, just like that? I don't know how exactly Kane was able to come back. Yeah, I know that you can't completely lose something in the internet, but it turns out that all Kinger did was just removed Kane from the circus. He didn't delete him, he just moved him somewhere else. And since Abel is now free and they, as far as we know, possess similar creation powers to Kane, could they theoretically be able to create their own world similar to how Kane created Digital Circus? It's sad for me that they started this subplot with Abel but decided to leave it unanswered for us to figure it out ourselves. Meh. Also, did Kinger slash Grant or anyone from CNA company realize that Brainscan project was indeed successful? Why CNA got abandoned in the first place, and the company or just its workers realized that now they have a tiny versions of themselves living on their computers? If so, why did they decide to leave the program running for so long? Even if CNA just moved to the other building, leaving the one that Pomni was exploring abundant, why did they leave a program with a creative AI they worked so hard on just still running? Was that Kane's doing? Somehow. And listen, I know that is not what the show is about. I know that the world building stuff and the last of the world that we see on the screen comes in second when it comes to the series like this. But I still have to say that some of the questions, like how was Pomni able to enter Jax's mind just by hugging him, not by going into his mind first, for example? Or how come that Kinger is sane only in the dark? Is it his coping mechanism to deal with this crazy world, or punishment from Kane? These questions weren't answered, and it's just kinda suck to be honest. And I know that the show is about characters who takes most space in the story, rightfully, but I guess we just have to write some fan fictions to understand the rest. Or I missed something and it actually was explained in episode 9 or earlier in the series, then I'm sorry and please someone explain it to me. Is Jax really gonna stay in the pillow fort for an entire eternity? Up's tragedy is pretty much canon and we got Yuri instead of straight couple that is only kinda straight. Can Funny Bunny please stop choking one another? And there's still tons of things that I could talk about, but this video is already 20 minutes long, so I have to be really quick. There is still a lot to unpack about the characters, lore, symbolism in that movie, like Kane's journey in the void and how the barrier and him trying to figure out which shape put next in order to get him to that barrier is actually just reflection of his relationship with circus members, or it's just how I see it. Because at first we can see Kane trying all those different shapes to find out if they can become as stairs for him to get to the exit door or just his way back to the circus. He tries different combinations from where not all of them work, so he tries and tries and tries and tries until he gets it eventually right. In the end, when he's about to reach for the door, he discovers the barrier that doesn't allow him to pass. So he tries to break the barrier with the red triangle thing that I don't know a word for in English, but he quickly discovers that the force doesn't really work well with the barrier. But then he tries something different. Kane gently touches the barrier and discovers how fragile and soft it actually is, and that you don't need force or power to get through it. You have to acknowledge it, and it beautifully reflects Kane's relationship with circus members and his desperate need to understand humans. And as he comes to terms with what he's been doing, and as he learns to listen and accept and admit his mistakes, the red dot in the void slowly grows arms and legs. So Kane is slowly understanding people surrounding him. He's gaining his humanity. In a way. I still might change my mind about the ending and stuff I said in this video after I watch it again 57 times in my home, but I just wanted to say that TADC is one of my biggest inspirations out there. It's not only introduced me to indie animation community, but it also really helps me figure out and understand myself and people around me better. It's a really bizarre feeling when goofy looking characters teach you so much about yourself, others, relationships, or just existing more than I don't know, school ever did. This wacky thing helped me through some really dark shit and some really hard periods of my life. So I guess my words or even the tone of my voice cannot fully describe how much good this show brings to my life, but it does, and I am forever grateful for that. So thank you, Gooseworks, and thank you, Glitch, for creating something so extraordinarily important and special to us, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one who thinks that way. So keep creating, guys, because it's really worth it, and the amazing digital circus era, you will be so, so missed.
Oh, cool. I'm not a vegan anymore.
Oh, hey! Wait, what are you...